Hey man, great to see you. Welcome to a lovely brisk outdoor day in Boston, Massachusetts. Actually, this is west of Massachusetts, just a little bit outside of Boston. But it's been a couple of weeks since I did a video for you, and it sounds like a tree is falling. That's the only danger with doing this outside. Sorry for the weird angle. It's about the best I could do with where I'm at. I didn't bring a tripod, didn't have anything that I could pack in my suitcase on a plane, so I'm just kind of setting my camera over there, and we're trying to get audio a few different ways. So hopefully there's some decent audio for you. But you'll probably hear chickens because there's a chicken coop over there, and there's tons of birds, and apparently there's a tree that just fell. Anyway, yeah, we're staying in a really, really nice Airbnb, and the pool is covered for the season, but I figured this would be a cool place to get out and for me do a little bit of warming up and also get to talk to you for a few minutes. Doing some Flam warm-ups. Literally, this is the first time today that I've picked up the sticks, and you'll notice I don't have a practice pad. I'm actually playing here on the concrete, and I've got this cool little product because I can't always pack a practice pad with me. My luggage, my little carry-on luggage was packed to the gills for several days here in Boston, and just didn't have room to put a practice pad. But I've got these cool little rubber tips made by a company that doesn't make these sticks. But fortunately, this other company makes these cool little rubber tips that you put on, and it pretty much turns anywhere you go into a practice pad. So I'll let you Google that. I'm not going to shill for this product other than to tell you that I really think it's convenient when I can't have a practice pad. I can play on tabletops and not mar anything up, which means my wife doesn't get mad when I'm at home. And out here, I could practice, and if I wasn't talking to you, I'd make almost no noise. Nobody would even know that I was practicing. So these little rubber tips are cool. You just toss them on any drumstick you normally use. Anyway, the couple of things I want to talk about today with you. The first thing is a little bit of a clarification. I had a student that watched my video about flams and said, Brian, you failed to explain the thing you were talking about the 3-position thesis of flams. He said, you showed that to me in a lesson, and I remembered it, and I was looking for it. It's kind of a refresher, and you didn't even explain that. So let's go back, and we'll talk about that. The 3-position thesis, highfalutin. Basically, the idea is if you're trying to clean your flams up, effort is not really the solution to cleaning your flams up. Hand position is. You can try all day long to get cleaner and more consistent flams, but if your hand position's wrong, then you're not going to be able to do that. So in the 3-position theory, there's 3 positions, obviously. The first is what I call primary position, and that's where you've got your grace note is going to be just a little bit more than parallel to the surface, so a little bit more than maybe resting position. The other, your primary note, in this case, because we want to get maximum dynamic contrast, we'll talk about that in a second. Maximum dynamic contrast, I want to try and go full stroke with that. So I'm just going to bend the wrist all the way up. So that's going to be your starting position. Now, from here, we're going to push everything straight down, like we talked about in the other video. We're going to push everything straight down. You're not going to pick up and move, because watch what happens when you pick up. Now you don't have as much contrast between those notes. So everything from here is going to go straight down. Oh, those birds. Apparently the chickens don't like drumming. So contact position is the second position. You're not going to see that. You're going to hear that. And you're going to hear the grace note hit slightly before the primary note. The grace note is naturally going to be softer and have less attack to it because we're just dropping it from a low standpoint, just right there. And then the primary note is going to have all the nice snappy attack you need because we're coming with a pretty high velocity from a pretty high spot. So you're going to hear contact position, but you're not going to see it. And then we have our ending position, which basically ends where your resting position would be. With most drummers, as we're playing, if we're just kind of preparing to play, our our resting position is somewhere around maybe parallel to the surface, or sometimes a little bit more than parallel to the surface, depends on the angle of your drum. Maybe a little bit less if you got a pretty severe angle. I hope you don't. But in this case, if we have a flat surface, and I'm not trying to get over my leg here, I'm probably going to be more like about here. Let me get around my leg a second for you. So I'm, that far from the surface, whatever comfortably feels like parallel. So I go from my primary position, drop everything. I'm going to hear contact, but I'm not going to see it. And then I am ending up in my ending position. From there, I'm picking up the opposite hand, and I'm just repeating that process. Up, 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 up. So that's a little bit of a clarification on that three position theory. The great thing about this as a way of learning your flams and getting more consistency with your flams is once you establish that this is primary and this is your grace note, then we can play around with our dynamic contrast. This is something that I don't hear a lot of teachers talk about, and I don't see a lot of videos about on YouTube. Dynamic contrast, if I want less of a volume in that primary note, let's say for instance that this is too loud, I can just bring this down, and now I've got some nice consistent flams where I've brought down that primary note, but I haven't touched this grace note. So I'm still getting a real soft, subtle grace note. So I can play with this, this level of this primary note in each hand, and I can adjust the dynamic contrast. So in this case, as the volume goes down, we get less dynamic contrast between primary note and the grace note. We get a softer flam overall, but we get less difference between the loud and the soft. Now, on the other side of things, let's say I need playing on like a screaming rock band, and I need a big fat flam where that little grace note's gonna get lost, or I can still keep this high. In fact, I can even kind of get it higher if I move my arms up. And then all of a sudden, if I move this grace note up, it's still going to be softer. So I can keep that high. And I can keep that grace note high. Oop. One of the perils of practicing on a ledge wall here. Anyway, I can still keep that grace note where it's softer than my primary note, but because it gets a lot higher, it sounds more like, because it sounds more like a softer stroke, not just a little tap on the drum. So yeah, if you play these nice, clean, closed flams in a rock setting, you're not going to hear, especially with screaming guitars and 5,000, 10,000 people out there, you're not going to hear that grace note. If I need something that's a lot bigger, a lot fatter, has a lot more to it, I'm gonna have to bring that thing up. So now I've brought up my primary note because I've raised my arm a little bit, but I've also brought up my grace note as well. And in this case, I get more volume, but I get less dynamic contrast. So we'll do a whole video when we get back to the studio about this idea of dynamic contrast in our playing. But one of the things that I don't see enough drummers working on is their ability to move this dynamic contrast from low to high so that you can get the whole gradient of sounds. It would be like if you were just trying to paint the world with the same hue of blue. It would just all be a flat blue. But just by changing that hue from lighter to darker, you could do all kinds of amazing things just with the color blue. It's the same thing with these flams. If we experiment with the whole range of dynamic contrast as we move up and down our dynamic range, then we can get a whole lot of different kind of sounds. And that's one of the things that's pretty awesome about the Flam is that it is an incredibly malleable rudiment. And I just don't think that enough drummers take time. They just sort of throw their hands down what feels like Flam and then they kind of call it a day. So I hope that adds some clarity and adds a little bit more depth to the discussion about Flams and why they're useful, how they can be useful. The other thing that I wanted to talk about really quickly, and it's one of these things where as I'm here in Boston rehearsing with the Platters for their fall tour, and as I'm talking about things like Flams for you, I see a lot, especially not drummers necessarily that have been studying for a long time, but that have been playing drums for a long time. There's a difference in playing drums and studying drums. For drummers that have been playing drums a long time, maybe not necessarily studying drums a long time, there's a tendency to discount the things that might be viewed as simple or elementary. And I've always subscribed to this thing I call the beginner's mind. In everything that I do, whether it's looking at a Flam or learning a new song or picking up a new instrument, I always approach everything with what's called a beginner's mind. So as I'm looking at that Flam, every time I play a Flam, I try and see it with a fresh set of eyes so that, one, I never lose the wonder that comes from playing my instrument. But if I keep myself open, there's things that I notice, even more than 40 years into doing this, there's things that I notice about what I'm doing on this instrument, and there's things I notice about a huge spider right there. Come on, how about you go somewhere else, please? Yeah, go somewhere else. Nope, we're going to put you over there. Sorry. Boston wildlife. Who would have thunk it? Anyway, there's things that I notice because I keep my mind open and I never assume that I've learned everything I can about any given thing. Where I see this a lot of times, and I've seen this more recently with other musicians, when they hear a song that they think is very easy, they hear a 3-chord song and they think, well, after the 8th time I've heard these same 3 chords over and over again, I know this song. I know exactly how this song goes. Not really. Until you really dig into the nuances, like on a Green Day song. It's very easy to listen to a Green Day song like Basket Case or something and think that after you've heard the first 8 bars, you might know the entire song. You know exactly how the song is played. But it's a lot more nuanced than that. Not only are things like chords possibly going to change, or the orders of things going to change, the length that you do things is going to change, but there's a lot to be learned about the rhythm, the attitude, the swagger, all of the things that you can find out about a song if you just pretend that it's the first time you've ever picked up your instrument to learn a song. And you're going to notice things about that song you've never noticed before. For me, it's almost a superpower because, like in preparing for these Platters rehearsals, there are no grooves in any of these songs that technically are impossible for me to play or that I had to really sit down and shed. I've been playing long enough that I played, if not these exact grooves, some variant on these grooves a whole lot of times. But for me, in my preparation for rehearsals, I'm really approaching every song with a beginner's mind so that it's as if I've heard the song for the first time. So I'm really noticing all of the details. I've got a high level of attention to detail as I'm learning the songs, as I'm reading the charts, as I'm listening to whatever recordings are sent. But even after I put in all of my work ahead of time, before we get into the actual group rehearsals, once I step in that room with the group rehearsals, I'm confident I've done my homework, that I know what's expected of me, what I know I need to do. But then I still have that beginner's mind where I'm listening around the room because there's subtle changes that have to happen once we get this group of musicians together to play these arrangements. And the way that that collective of musicians is going to play those songs on that day is going to be slightly different than what those singers are used to. And even as rehearsed as those singers might be, they're going to react to what they're hearing the band do, so they're going to make little changes, and that's going to affect what we do. So if I approach that rehearsal with a beginner's mind, informed by all of the work that I put in to learning the arrangements and learning that show, I'm going to make much different choices than if I've shut my mind off and approach it from the standpoint of I've learned everything there is to learn about these songs, and I'm just going to give it back rote at that point. So yeah, what I would encourage you to do as you're going through and doing anything that you do, but especially when it comes to music, every time you pick up your sticks or pick up your guitar or whatever your instrument of choice is, really treat this as if it was the first time. And try and retain that sense of wonder that you have as a kid picking up this instrument. You know, the sense of wonder that a 5-year-old has, or that a 14-year-old Brian Stevens had when he first picked up a pair of drumsticks. And not only does it continue to make this instrument interesting and fascinating for me, it makes the fun quotient shoot up exponentially. I have a lot more fun because I'm always exploring, always learning, always discovering. So that's all I got for you today. Thanks so much for hanging out with me out here with the chickens and the spiders and the trees that are falling here on a brisk Weston/Boston, Massachusetts morning. I've had a wonderful time being up here this week, and I have a feeling I'll be up here a good bit more throughout the fall. Pay attention to brianstevens.com, because once I get the final tour dates for this fall tour that I'm playing with the Platters, I'll make sure to put those on my website. I want to thank everybody in the Platters organization. I need to make sure I do that. For this opportunity to come and play this music with them, this timeless classic music. Thank my buddy Andy Martin for getting me on this gig. Thank my buddy Michael Watson for having me here as well. And just everybody. Everybody's been so wonderful, and I want to thank everybody. Not that I haven't already, but officially in this documented record, thank everybody. I've had a wonderful time up here rehearsing. We're going to have a wonderful time this fall with the shows. If you get a chance and we're playing a show near you, please come out and see it. And that's all I got for you today. So if you dig this content, please hit the thumbs up there and like it. Smash that bell so that you get notifications every time I put a new video out. And if you're not already subscribed, and most people that watch these videos are not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel. It really helps. Anyway, that's all I've got for you today. Until next time, be awesome to yourself. Be extra awesome to everybody that you meet today. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you. Thanks so much.